All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Now, we are going to do a very special video here today. We're going to talk about Francis Ngannou and his UFC contract negotiation, etc. What happened when Dana came out, what he said in the interview, but I'm going to tell you what's really going on. And not in the way that I normally do these, the real reason, and then I speculate. I'm going to tell you what's really going on in this one, because in case you're new to the channel, I told everybody about this 6 months ago. I mean, I have been telling everyone that this was the situation for a very long time. And it's because I know what's going on, right? If there's any important player in the UFC where I'm relatively well dialed with multiple people on their team, it's this one. And I mean, look, when I also show you the serendipity for me that lives around this situation, it's going to blow your mind. That's where we're going to start, actually. That's where we're going to start. So I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on with this Francis thing, what's going on their side. I'm going to have to speculate on the UFC side, but their incentives are always the same. And we're going to talk about it. Now, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. But first of all, I think it's important that everybody understands the way that this channel started. And trust me, this is all very relevant to what Francis is doing. It seems crazy to say out loud up front, but it is. Now, when I started this channel, it's because Chael Sonnen put me on fan questions, okay? And I started submitting fan questions to him all the time. Obviously, I love talking about this, as you guys know now. Back then, I was just a fan, just like anybody else, and I wanted to talk about it, and I started submitting them, and especially once he put me on the first time, I started doing it all the time. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll just take this over to TikTok, this new platform, which I did, and it blew up. So I took it from TikTok to YouTube, and this blew up. And so the germ, which was the genesis of Jesse on Fire, was the video I'm about to show you. And when I show it to you, all of you are going to go, damn. Especially when I tell you that this is what's in play right now, okay? So this is the first time that Jesse on Fire existed in any capacity, and it was on Chael's fan questions. Let's watch it right now. Boom.
But I see what you did there, and I like the booking.
Okay, I've got a fun question. So if you could see any fight between any two current fighters in any sport, under any set of rules, what is that dream matchup that you would put together? I'm going to go ahead and say mine is Francis Ngannou versus Deontay Wilder in boxing with MMA gloves. What's yours?
Okay.
That is the genesis of Jesse on Fire. I didn't know Francis. I didn't know any of his coaches. I didn't know any of the guys on his team. I didn't know his manager. I know no one. That was just me as a fan who did not have a YouTube channel, who had nothing to do with I had nothing to do with this industry whatsoever, other than I'm a rabid fan that hadn't missed a pay-per-view event since Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz won. Okay, that was my dream fight. My dream fight is Francis Ngannou versus Deontay Wilder, and this is before he was the champion. I sent that to him in January of 2020. Okay, that's when I sent that to him, January 2020. Now, was Francis the champion then? No. Had he even fought Rosenstreich yet then? No. Okay, I saw Francis come in a mile away. I always saw him coming. I knew he was going to come back. Once I saw him come back and knock a couple guys out, I was like, dude, he's going to go on a run now and become the champion, and he did. But the point I'm making is, in my absolute dream fight with no he's my boy or nothing like that, just as a fan, my dream fight was Francis Ngannou versus Deontay Wilder in boxing in MMA gloves, okay? So we'll come back to that, right? But what's going on right now is Francis and the UFC are at an impasse, okay? And I can tell you for 100% sure that one of the reasons for that is that Francis's dream when he left Cameroon scaled those fences. If you haven't ever watched a really heavy, a real documentary about Francis's backstory, I cannot stress this enough. You have to watch it. Like Mixed Molly Wapri. I know I send him to you, or send you guys to him all the time. I don't even know why I'm rolling my eyes. It's the best content on YouTube, period. Mixed Molly Wapri's documentary about Francis Ngannou, right? Go and watch it. Understand what Francis went through to get to where he is now. I'm not even talking about get to where he is now. I'm talking physically to get from Cameroon to ultimately to France, where the beginning of his journey started. Just to understand what it took for him to get there, where he was then living in a garage as a homeless person to start out. You can't fathom what this man went through. You can't fathom it. Okay? It's the kind of thing where, let's say this channel really blew up, right? Like, really blew up, and I'm making millions of dollars a year. And I'm trying to tell my Genesis story about how, I sold my company, but then we got whatever, like just I was at the bottom, whatever. I did 700 videos before it even got started. Like that's like me calling that hardship is like Francis saying that, he dropped his spoon on the ground while he was eating cereal. This man went through more hardship than you can fucking fathom just to get to step one, razor wire, 11 times trying to paddle across the ocean with his fucking hands, okay? With his fucking hands. I don't think people understand the way that people live in other parts of the world. The desperation that people feel to get away from where they're at and get towards something that they see as maybe giving them the opportunity to chase something great. Most of them are actually doing it under delusion too. People thought Francis was fucking crazy, okay? He's in a sand mine in his early to mid 20s, and he sees Mike Tyson on TV, and he's like, I think I can do that. I think I can go be the heavyweight champion in boxing. Oh, you do, Francis? Do you have any boxing experience? No, I'm just very strong. I can work really hard. And they're like, okay, there's no boxing here in Cameroon, right? It's an impossible dream. It's the pursuit of a fucking crazy person, like a lunatic. Like it's a fucking lunatic's pursuit. Okay, and I'm not saying I have any impact over what he does at all, but what I can tell you is that as I kind of unfold what's actually going on, I will tell you that any other fighter in the world, fucking any other fighter, any of them, if they were doing what Francis is attempting to do right now, I would tell them they're delusional. I would be like, this is not a good idea. I would tell them it's not a good idea. Any other person, except him, because of this. Because of what he went through to get to stage one and what he went through to be able to get to where he is now. Because the vision that was in his head was he wanted to be the heavyweight champion in boxing. That's what he wanted. That was what the vision was. He didn't even want to do MMA initially. Now, obviously that's changed, it changed at a certain point. But they had to force him to do MMA just to get a fighting career started because it was like, it's too late for boxing. Okay? Well, maybe not now though, is it? Right? Maybe not now. And so one of the main sticking points was the flexibility to be able to go box for a heavyweight title if he wanted to, right? And the UFC, look, let me just make this perfectly clear. There are no good guys or bad guys in this story for me. I'm pretty clear on basically everything that's going on. And sometimes people or organizations come to an impasse and there's no good guy and there's no bad guy. There are no bad players in this story. There just aren't, dude. Because I keep hearing this thing about, Francis's manager, and I can tell you 100% that is misplaced negative criticism. It just is. It just is. Because the people who are saying it, they don't understand what Francis wants. They don't understand what his vision is. They don't understand what's important to him, and they couldn't, because how would they? I can understand how it would appear to another party looking at this and they're like, is he out of his mind? What does he think he's going to do? What's he going to do? Go fight in Bellator? Is he going to fight in ONE FC? What are his fucking options? Why would he not sign this incredibly lucrative contract that we're offering him? I don't understand. And I'm telling you directly, he's not going to ONE FC. He's not going to fucking Bellator. He's not doing that. He's going to fight Tyson Fury for the heavyweight championship of the world, or Deontay Wilder, potentially in fucking MMA gloves. Okay? The fucking gloves are off now. In terms of what people can do and promote a fight, in case you guys missed it, you got the triad thing, and I'm certainly not saying they're going to do it in fucking Triller, but they're doing boxing now in MMA gloves. Just like I said. Now let me ask you a serious question, okay? Serious question as fans, and you guys can feel free to comment this below, okay? If Francis, assume that Francis wins, right? Assume that Francis knocks Cyril out, right? Let's just from the thought, you know what? We're gonna get to more of that too. Actually, we're gonna get to more of that too. But in this thought exercise, operate from the perspective that Francis knocked out Cyril in the second round after an incredible performance, right? knocks him out cold. First loss for Cyril, unconscious opponent. Francis goes into his next phase like that, right? Now, if that's the case, and you find out that Francis is going to fight Tyson Fury in a boxing match with MMA gloves, okay? And Tyson Fury is coming out saying, the reason I want to do this in MMA gloves is because my grandfather was the bare knuckle world gypsy boxing champion. So was my father, so was my uncle. I come from a lineage of bare knuckle boxing champions that are fucking gypsies, okay? Now, I've beat all the guys with the big gloves on, but that's the guy with the MMA gloves. And so we're going to do a blockbuster, an absolutely fucking titanic event where Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou fight in a boxing match with MMA gloves. Are you going to buy that fight? Like, seriously, are you buying that fight? And I'm not, forget about the fact that a lot of you guys fucking steal fights, which I do not condone ever, okay? So you can't steal it. I'm asking you seriously, is there a scenario where you don't watch that fucking fight? Because I think that fight would be such an enormous blockbuster, it's hard to even wrap your brain around. Like, I can't even fucking think of an event that would be bigger than that. And then you also have Deontay. My initial fucking thing was about Deontay Wilder, the two heaviest hitters ever, MMA gloves. Let's say Francis lost to Cyril. Let's say Cyril took Francis down and something happened. And then Francis is like, yeah, I'm going to go fight Deontay Wilder in a boxing match with MMA gloves. Are you buying that fight? Because I'm fucking buying that fight. You could make that fight $600 and I'm buying it. And so you have to understand, this is a weird, unique situation with a very unique fighter who's gone through an incredibly unique journey to get to where he's at. Okay? That's what the UFC is actually negotiating against. They're negotiating against a blockbuster boxing match against Tyson Fury or Deontay. The MMA gloves thing, it's not like, that's my dream. But certainly one that would make perfect sense to me. But they're negotiating against blockbuster boxing matches against those guys. That's what's in Francis's head. It says you also got to understand this. This is the other part of this, right? In order for a fighter like Francis to get to a point where he has one fight left on his deal in the prime of his career, do you understand what you have to do that? Okay? Read my mind. Think about how I look at this game in terms of what inspires me. Because there's only one way for this to happen. Is you have to bet so heavy on yourself and your team betting on you that it's hard to even quantify. You have to turn down so much fucking money in order to take that risk that it would seem insane, to where Dana being like, his manager's out of his mind, or any of these guys being like, what the fuck are they, like, dude, what are you guys doing? I completely understand how it would look to them, because of course it seems insane. They're leaving enormous amounts of money on the table and have been. They chose not to sign new contracts with lots and lots of more money that would have been made at any of these points. And they chose not to do it. Do you understand what that means? They're fucking all in, dude. Like, they're fucking all in. And not all in like the way, all the fighters are always fucking all in. But they're really all in. You want to talk about fucking put your fucking money where your mouth is? This is that. What you're looking at with Francis and where he's at right now is the most put your fucking money where your mouth is situation you've ever seen in your entire life. Ever. Fucking ever. It's not like Francis has $50 million in the bank. It's not like anybody on his team is sitting on $50 million. They've turned down enormous money to take this risk. And I don't care what anybody says. If you want to go in the comments, go, Francis is blowing it. He's going to go to one. He's going to become irrelevant. I don't fucking care if that's what you think. There's the business side of this, and then there's the other thing. Like the other thing, right? Like the other thing, where this is like a genuine, noble pursuit. And if you have any part of you that respects that side of the game, then you don't look at this like, what an idiot. You look at this like, God damn. Fuck. God damn. Like, he's willing to go into this fight with no new contract because that whatever he's after, he wants it that much. He's willing to put that on the line. Like, this is literally not, as a matter of fact, this is exactly like this. Imagine that you had someone in your family that you believed in so firmly that you were willing to take your entire net worth, all of it, okay, and put it on him in one fight that was going to decide everything for you guys. That's what they're doing. Like, that's what they've been doing, and that's what they're doing now. They went into the Stipe fight, didn't sign a new contract, a lot more money offered. They're going into the Cyril fight as the champion, millions of dollars, not taking a new deal. Think about that. Like, you really think that you think that this is you think this is a mismanagement thing? Or you think it's these guys have fucking granite balls thing. And it might end up being the wrong thing. It might be completely, depending on how you look at it. Like, it might be wrong. They might end up with way, way, way less money in the long run. You know, I'm not in a position to tell anybody what's right or what's wrong to do. All I can do is just, as an observer, recognize the commitment that it takes to even be in the situation right now. Now, it's possible, and they may end up doing another fucking deal right now. I don't know. Dana said they can't come to a deal. It's his last fight. And that's, you know, if the UFC, obviously the UFC wants to re-sign him. He's the heavyweight champion. Why would they not want to re-sign him? And I actually thought that was a very, very prudent and smart strategic move from Dana. Like, when I saw that, I was like, damn, that's just, now let me go back to the business side. I was like, that's solid. That's solid strategy. You know, that's what you call a takeaway. Okay. So if the other party feels like they're in the driver's seat and they're like, we only got one fight left, so yeah, we're going to fight it out, and there's some kind of offer on the table, and the other person is like, they're being unreasonable, then you go, okay, well, guess what? That offer, not on the table anymore anyway. So good luck. Now you're totally committed, right? And, you know, of course, the play is, let's see, like, you're playing chicken. It's like, you really going to go into this fight? You're really going to go into this fight without signing a new contract? And they're, you know, the play is, now come back and ask us for that deal again. And we're going to say, no, here's a deal we'll give you. It's less. It's a power move. It's a fucking great strategic negotiating play. Brilliant. There's nothing else to say about it. It's exactly what I would have done. So I don't have any idea what they're going to do. I have no idea. If I were Francis, if I was like, you know, Francis's team, I would literally itemize exactly what I wanted from the UFC. Like, I would be like, this is exactly what we want. We don't want to leave. We want this amount of money for this amount of fights. We want this, and we want the ability to be able to go fight Tyson Fury at some point with terms that we can control. Like, where it's not like, because here's the challenge with a thing like that, right? The UFC's never given anybody the right to like, on their own, go fight in boxing where they're not in control. Of course, the UFC's going to want control over that, which is, of course. So that is a tough sticking point to try to navigate around, you know? But, like, you got to figure there's a way to do an event like that with Francis and Tyson where everybody makes out. The UFC is in a really weird spot because boxing is not, like, boxing as a sport is their competitor now. Like there's the UFC, the company. They don't have any MMA competition. Boxing as a fucking sport is their competition. So they don't want to blow any air into that thing. It's like, you know, when they did the McGregor and Mayweather fight, that's because there was so much to gain by getting that level of exposure to all the boxing fans. Put Conor in front of them, you generate so much fucking money. But, you know, you're going to get a lot more eyeballs in the direction of UFC, which is exactly what happened. That's why when you talk to people, you can recognize the ones who are now rabid fans, and they start talking about how Conor's garbage and dirt, and you know, oh, okay, so you're a fan that started watching at Mayweather McGregor. And there's a lot of them, you know. There's a lot of them. If they don't know shit about why Conor's such a huge star, it just means they came Mayweather McGregor, and there's a lot of them. It was a brilliant play when they did that. But now is different. Now the UFC is the primary combat sport. The boxing has a handful of guys, you know, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, you know, and they can't even sell fights with certain guys unless they're fighting a big name. Tyson Fury is going to sell no matter what. And then you got Canelo, you know, you got but there are actually some, you know, Lomachenko and that whole division. There are actually some sparks of life in boxing now. And so the UFC, if I'm the UFC, I'm just thinking out loud. I have no idea if this is how they're seeing it. But if I'm the UFC, strategically what I'm looking at is I don't want to breathe any air into that dying bitch over there. I sure as hell don't want to give him my fucking heavyweight champion to do some big blockbuster boxing match. But if it's in MMA gloves, if it's in fucking MMA gloves, all of a sudden that fight stops looking like a traditional boxing match. It starts looking more like a UFC fight, you know? And I know they don't like to do the special rules things. Like, I get that. But Francis is after a big-ass payday in boxing against one of those guys. You got to figure there's a way to work it out. You got to anyway. But if not, at least everybody understands what's on the table now and why it's happening. You know? I love the UFC more than anything. Look, I dedicated all this time doing fucking videos about the UFC. You have any idea how much I love the sport and the company? You think I'm rooting against the UFC and this? I'm not. Of course I'm not. I'm rooting to be inspired. I'm always inspired by the UFC. I'm incredibly inspired by Francis and his fucking team. Because of this, again, if it was anyone else, I would be saying completely different things. But anyway, that's probably enough. If you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. Tell all your friends.